Yeah, like, I read it.
All right. Oh, see, listen, Brian ready to go. Welcome to another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. We have plenty of women's basketball news. Training camps have started. We've got all kinds of docu-series, exclusive interviews to talk about. And of course, the big question for tonight, who will have a breakout season for the New York Liberty? All that and more coming up on Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Gotta get up, gotta get up, gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. Hey, what do you say? That's usually how I start my hockey podcast. Erica L. Ayala here alongside Misha Jones and Brian Florentin. It's May, baby. Let's go.
It is. Springtime.
Fourth season, rise up. Let's go. Oh, can't wait. Of course, here with the crew, this has got to get up a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Let's first go around the horn. Brian, first of all, that looks like a soccer kit. What you rocking with today?
Oh, this is an old Kevin Durant Nets jersey I had laying around. I was like, oh, let me wear that tonight. It'd be nice.
Oh, I thought that was like, I thought it was one of those like Nike kits where it got like the silver lines and all that. Who had one of those? I feel like Orlando, maybe the Orlando NWSL team. Yeah, I think they did something like that. Either way, okay, Kevin Durant, man, people were roasting them Suns. Wow,
it's been a hectic week.
Did you also see where they tried to bring the Mercury into it yesterday? Not the Mercury was catching strays on behalf of the whole franchise.
Wow.
Well, we think we're in a good position with the Suns and the Mercury. They didn't just lose. Don't do that to them. Give them a clean slate.
Right. Like, ain't nobody, nobody, like, mind your business. Also, we might have to get into that on another podcast because, like, is that a factual statement at all? Question mark?
We ain't even got the time.
We can't get into that. Listen. No more Cloud9. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, Misha Jones.
You would say that right before you introduced me. You would say something like that. And I still look crazy. I'm going to keep this jersey up. I don't care.
Pay for it.
In my game. Okay.
We're real.
Receipt is in my bag. What was the question? I don't even know.
What's good in your world?
Clearly nothing. No. Plenty. We working hard over here, coming up with all the schemes, plots, ideas. We're trying to, living the dream, chasing the dream.
Chasing the dream, the Atlanta dream, trying to be top 4. I don't know if y'all saw that. You see what I did? Come on now. I be staying up. I be on the up and up. But okay, we went around the horn. Let's get into some top news. There was a lot. I feel like every time, like, I'm putting together our little rundown and I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about in the first quarter. I don't know. And then it's like all the things happen right before we get ready to hit record. But all right, you know what it is. It's the shoot around, stories around women's basketball. And I mean, first of all, we got to talk about one that at the time that we started our rundown was the biggest news. And we have talked about this potential scenario on this very podcast during the WNBA Finals. And that, of course, Brian, is Candace Parker officially retiring. I want to get both of y'all's thoughts. We'll start with Brian and then head to Misha. And folks in the chat, let us know, how do you feel? Candace Parker officially retired from the WNBA.
Yeah, like, I had so many thoughts sort of like swirling through my head when I saw the announcement. I guess one was a little bit of sadness because she didn't get the big tour and going through. Not to make it about the Mystics, but
leave me alone. Let me be. I'm just here to have fun.
Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, like the initial thought was a bit of sadness because she didn't get to sort of like walk out on the court and really sort of like have a last game and the theatrics that a player of her stature deserves. So
Yeah.
I felt a little badly about that. And I guess at the same time, I sort of thought, you being able to walk away on a championship and still, when she was playing, being a player who couldn't contribute, it shows that even though my body wasn't there anymore, my game still was. So you can still walk out and be like, I was still one of the, I think she was all WNBA last year. So she was still one of the top players in the league. So you can always have that frame of mind. And I also started thinking a little bit, not beyond Candace, if that makes sense. Because I was thinking back to something she said last year when she got to Vegas of how when she was on the Aces, that was like the first time she's ever had a locker to her own in her career. And I thought about that in the context of the Sparks and the Sky specifically, because those two teams have really gotten a lot of pushback and criticism for their lack of investment, their lack of organizational infrastructure as compared to the other teams in the league, like here, Vegas, Seattle, now Phoenix. So I thought a lot about how we sort of see the game evolve through time where organizations in big cities like that didn't put the investment in, and players like Candace, NECA when she was in Chicago, the entire 2021 Sky team had to overcome just a lack of care is a little bit strong, but that lack of full support. And
Brian, I'm gonna let you finish.
yes,
This is a podcast for New York Liberty fans. I think if any fan base can understand and appreciate the terminology lack of care, is us.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you finish. Because I remember Westchester County Center, but I'm gonna let you finish.
That is true. That is true. Like a lot of places, like 2024 is a brighter day compared to 2019 for a lot of folks. So yeah, and just seeing that and seeing how teams have started to really sort of speed up. That is correct. Won everywhere, did everything, hard to stop. Yeah, so I think in seeing how she and the players really were able to sort of like overcome those bad circumstances and really sort of like push the league and sort of like establish the foundation for the league to take to jump to the heights it's jumping to now. All that legwork and all that hard work and grind that they put in, I think is really appreciated by the players like under Candace. Like to a player, they all share their favorite memories. They were also referential of her, as they should be. And it really showed that when you do the work, when you do right by others, it's always appreciated and respected. And even if it's not immediately felt, many years down the line, people will acknowledge it and respect it. And you leave the game in a better position when you came in, and you leave players the tools to really sort of take the work that you did and push it to new and exciting different directions at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Mish.
Yeah, it was definitely a sad day. Definitely a sad day. I think the first point of her not wanting to have a whole goodbye tour and everything, it broke my heart. Because she was a rookie in the league in 2008 when I was 11, right? So I really grew up. She was one of the ones I was emulating, not just on the court. I remember back in the day, she used to have the baby hairs laid, okay? The baby hairs was laid. And back in the day when I had hair and a ponytail and all that kind of stuff, I was trying to get my edges laid just like Candace Parker for real. And she was just so iconic in that way. And, even stretching more off the court, because we could talk about her accolades for the rest of the podcast. We ain't got that kind of time, right? Yeah. But off the court, to also watch her evolution as a person while I was having my own personal evolution, right? Because when she came in the league, she was with Sheldon. Some of y'all don't know who Sheldon is, and that's good. You don't need to know who Sheldon is. But to watch her transform into the Candace Parker we know today, who has a wife, who's got kids, who, she's retiring into the situation that seems ideal for a lot of people. And to have had the privilege to witness that on top of her absolute dominance on the basketball court and what she's become as an analyst, I mean, I'm happy for her. You know what I mean? I'm sad that, again, it happened the way that it did and that she's not getting her farewell tour. But also, do we deserve that?
Ooh, Okay, come on now, talk about it. Okay, what you mean, Mish? Let them know, just in case folks don't know what you maybe mean.
So what I'm talking to specifically, and it's so funny, it's an Olympic year. Candace Parker has been so disrespected by USA Basketball.
Ooh.
If you don't know about the beef between her and Gino, I suggest you go Google up a storm. Okay, there's bad blood there, and then in the league, her being voted, what was it, most underrated?
I remember
overrated. Excuse me.
Yeah.
A couple seasons ago, whenever that was, that to this day, I'm like, what clout chaser got in y'all's heads and made you forget who the real CP3 is? I don't know what's wrong with the rest of y'all, but the Hoopers know. So anyway, that's that on that. Candace, we love you. Thank you for everything you've done for the game. Thank you for everything you continue to do for the game.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like, listen, am I a Candace Parker hater? Absolutely not. Am I a Candace Parker stan? Not that either. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm always keep it funky with y'all. I didn't grow up watching, or I should say, I definitely grew up watching Tennessee. I didn't grow up rooting for Tennessee. Candace Parker, unfortunately, in my estimation, played in the WNBA, especially in her early years, during what I sometimes refer to as the dark days of the WNBA, and to no fault of those players. Because if you look at who came through 08, 2012, like, come on, but the league wasn't leaguing like to the most high. Right? Because this is, you got to remember, like, y'all got to know your history. This is around the time. So 08, I think at least, because really, I feel like it was like around 05, 06, where the OG owners that were NBA owners, right? They started leaving, gone, and you only had a handful. And we already talked about, in a small estimation, in case y'all need a reminder, about Dolan and that whole situation, because Dolan was one of the owners that remained with the New York Liberty. Unfortunately, there was no respect. So there was just a few dark days in the WNBA. And I feel like that 08 to 12, 13, things just weren't being promoted. There was a lot happening, unfortunately. And so I think a little bit of that is also reflective in what I quite honestly just remember, as opposed, and what I experienced versus, or I should say, is not a part of what I remember and what I experienced. It's things that I've had to like kind of watch after the fact. And so I think, unfortunately, Candace Parker and a lot of her career falls into that. But then you think about, how she was able to get the Sparks another championship and get them to 3 overall as a franchise. You mentioned what she's been able to do off the court. And I think even when we look at what she did for Chicago, I think the Chicago situation is very interesting to me, because it seemed like it was a place that she wanted to retire. And that obviously didn't happen. Now, I don't put that on CP. That sounds like it might be something of what Brian was talking to and alluding to earlier, right? As far as facilities, at minimum. But then being able to see Candace Parker really not on the court very much last year, but the observations that I made and what I was hearing, it could have been easy for someone like CP3 to just be like, all right, this injury it ain't really working out this year, and just focus heavily on other things. But it seemed to me that Candace Parker was very committed to the Las Vegas Aces. And although was not able to contribute on the court in the way that she wanted, was very integral to that team being able to go back to back. And that's huge. That is huge. So again, I'm not coming from it as someone, I don't feel bad saying this. Like, not everyone's going to be your favorite basketball player. Candace Parker is not one of my favorite basketball players. That has nothing to do with the amount of respect that I have for what Candace Parker has done for basketball. And sometimes I just want to say that, because I feel like sometimes people don't understand.
They don't.
Because something isn't my favorite doesn't mean, like, I do not like I will not mince words at all. I actually hate the New York Yankees because I'm a Mets fan. And I will hold on to that. Ain't nobody, no thing that could change that for me, right? Okay. That being said, I'm a baseball fan. So I understand and respect what the Yankees are in baseball. Those are just facts. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, unfortunately, Candace Parker, sometimes she'd be taking strays. And so to your point, did we deserve a goodbye? Well, Candace, I don't know if she said that in as many words, but she basically said that she didn't want any of that. So in her statement, it's on the screen, but I will read it for y'all. I'll start with the top. I promised I'd never cheat the game and that I'd leave it in a better place than I came into it. The competitor in me always wants one more, but it's time. My heart and body knew, but I needed to give my mind time to accept it. That is also very real. If you've ever left something that you love and not always under your own like you didn't get to pick all of the circumstances, that is realness right there. I wanted to walk off the court with no parade or tour, just privately with the ones I love. What now was to be my last game. I walked off the court with my daughter. I ended the journey just as I started it, with her. And you can read the rest of the statement on her IG. But I mean, Candice kept it real, and said what she didn't. Damien, we don't have time for this.
Not you stopping to make time for it, saying we don't have time.
Do not tempt me. A-Rod. What's that guy's name? I thought it was the ball dude. I can't even remember his name. And I'm going to think about it randomly like 40 minutes into this podcast and be mad at you, Damien. I mean, not mad at you, but also, yes, maybe a little bit. A lot of things. But we're going to have to do a podcast for New York Mets fans because I have lots of things. Not to mention all them championships they won. But anyway. I mean, just congratulations, Candace Parker. I certainly hope that we continue to see just what she said, because Candace has changed the game. Whether you were a fan or not, you cannot argue that. She just changed the game. Only ever player to win Rookie of the Year, MVP in the same season. Like, we need to talk about that. I do have a little bit of I have some thoughts about that Defensive Player of the Year, but we're going to leave that for another day. I keep it real. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. But yeah, I think it's great that Candace was able to reflect and take time. And like she said, she don't want to cheat the game. And, sometimes when you know, and that's what it is. But we have a lot of other news to get into. And man, the news is all over the place, man. I don't even know how to feel about the news. We have another retirement that we're going to talk about, but it's going to lead us into talking about the New York Liberty training camp. So a few quick things, and both of them kind of hit the airwaves, so to speak, around the same dang time, aka yesterday. But we had the Las Vegas Aces with their documentary. Again, I just want to remind people, this is a podcast for New York Liberty fans. I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. I ain't watched that.
I should have known you didn't watch that documentary. I didn't know why it showed up on the rundown anyway. I was like, Erica don't want to talk.
I ain't watch it. I ain't watch it.
Erica. Vandersloot? No.
All right. So we got a few other things to add to the list.
Oh my God.
I ain't watch it. I ain't watch it.
It's so
I ain't
good.
watch it. I believe you. Good. I believe you.
I'm going to take the word for it.
There is a part in my healed soul that believes you.
You're just not ready yet. I understand.
It is not all healed. It is not all well with my soul. No, I got work to do. It is not all well with my soul. I ain't watching that.
Oh my God.
I ain't watching that right now. I'm going to tell you what. And I might not watch it until we get another champion. I'm just going to keep it. It don't have to be New York, but somebody else going to have to win before I watch that. I'm just
That's real.
100.
That's real. I understand.
But I appreciate C just like I did with CP. I love, and we talked about this before, Brian, on the show. I love that we're starting to see teams take control of their own narrative.
Mhm.
I love that. I freaking love that. The New York Liberty have done that, and we've talked about it on the podcast. The Aces, obviously, in spades. Let me stop being a hater.
No, this is important. It's important for people to see you working through these emotions in real time.
I mean, listen, I'm human. Listen, I am a national writer. Everybody knows that. And there is nothing that will separate me from being a New Yorker who felt empowered as a young child going to New York Liberty games. Period. Yeah. That's not that. I don't shy away from that.
Can't take that from you. Can't take that out of your work. You can't take it. Why? That makes it what it is. It makes you what you are. Like,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, okay. So Brian and I ain't watching, Misha. So this bullet points for you. Yes. Listen, Jay talking about, I can't lie. Watch 20 minutes and turn it off. Pain. Exact pain. I am not complete. I am not healed. But all right, we're gonna let you,
I won't do too much because I know we want to move past this pain point here. I'll just say, having spent some time with the college basketball season, obviously going the way it was with all the excitement around that, it gave me some time to step away from, remembering what happened in the WNBA playoffs and in the finals, generally speaking. And it felt like I was reliving that run. You know what I mean? Like, I just, from the beginning when CP still was in the lineup and tearing teams apart, seeing Jackie Young take yet another step in her offensive development, her confidence, talking, hearing Kelsey Plum and Becky Hammond talking about the relationship that they share and how crucial that was when they were back in San Antonio for Kelsey Plum to, rebuild who she was as a player, to get her spirit back, to get her mojo back. Asia obviously getting disrespected, getting hurt, getting, losing Nikki McCray in the middle of the season. I mean, it's just, there was so much packed into such short timelines for that team. It really is incredible what they were able to do. I mean, we saw the numbers, we saw the stats, they were all historic, but what they were able to quiet during all the chaos of that season, it's impressive. But most of all for me, it reinforced why Chelsea Gray is one of my favorite basketball players of all time. One of my goats. Because as someone who dealt with injury that sat me out of an entire season and knows that feeling and can't even imagine, I would rather have it happen in the offseason before the season starts than right before the finals. Or in the middle of the finals. Excuse me.
Game, right? Man, game 4.
Not just her, but Kia Stokes as well. I want to give her her props. But Chelsea Gray,
she was kind of fighting through that from what it sounded like.
She was trying to, but when it happens, it happens. But I'll wrap it up. Chelsea Gray, it's obvious from hearing the rest of her teammates talk about the rock that she was, even on the sideline, how she was still engaged and the confidence that she gave them. I mean, add that to her spectacular, her excellence on the basketball court. You can never make me hate her. Could never make me hate Chelsea Gray. I know she went to Duke. That's already a whole thing.
Yeah, that was like, that's a demerit for me, but
but that's not on that. Let's move past it.
But I ain't got no beef. Like, I love that. Like, when she do that little shoulder thing, I be like, you
that doggone backpack.
You better go on with your bad self. Okay, now. All right. Listen, we ain't watching. This is a safe space. I knew I could say we ain't watching. We ain't watching. I mean, I have, there's a unhealed version of me that has some things that I might want to say, but I already done said it on this podcast, so y'all can rewind back. Think about some of the things that were said after game 4 and make up your own conclusions about that. Now, Ronnie, come on, don't come for me. But okay.
He ain't watching either.
Okay, see, like, come on now. Don't be doing that. Well, Misha's a transplant. We done talked about this.
Yeah, I was always a different, coming from a different space. But I love me some New York Liberty too.
Not old number. Oh, burn.
Well, it's been nice talking to y'all. I have a 7:30 hard out Eastern time.
I'm done with y'all.
Yes, it is, Ronnie. Yes, it is.
Not yes, Ronnie. Ooh, that's 2 times. Man, listen. No, okay. Jokes aside, That sounds like, I'm glad that Misha, you did watch it, and I'm glad that you broke it down. There will be a time when I will watch this, because again, as a basketball fan, I think that this type of storytelling is so important. I'm also very curious to, outside of the fourth place vote, I'm also very curious, and I truly mean this. This is putting aside my New York Liberty fandom that I grew up with, but I really want to know, because Brian, you and I were in some of those scrums, and the Aces were so adamant that they were being blatantly disrespected throughout the whole playoffs. And I was like, I mean, I hear you, fam. I hear you. I don't know that I'm seeing all of it. But you know what? I'm not, I don't, you know, people miss things. Yeah. But I don't know. They were so, it was giving me like Last Dance vibes, right? The Last Dance, where Michael Jordan was just like putting things together in ways that it's like, okay, like some of that did happen, MJ. Like some of that did happen for sure, for sure. I feel like maybe we took it a little higher than it needed to be, but I don't know. I would love to know. So for that reason, I'm going to watch it. But also, again, because of the storytelling and all of that stuff, it's fresh for me. Like I thought, and here's how I knew, because I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm going to go in, I'm going to watch this, baka, baka, ba. And then I was like, oh, no, nope, nope, we're not ready. We're not ready. We're just not ready for that. So, you know, I'm so grateful that exists and that is on YouTube. And one day I will go back to it. But that day was not yesterday. Okay. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I feel like I think we can move on. But they're also getting the training camp treatment, right?
Yes, it's this Saturday, I believe.
Yeah. So, you know, the Aces are coming up big time. They got Ally Bank. I wrote about that for CBS Sports. So the Aces are quickly becoming a team, and rightfully so. Again, we talked about facilities, ownership. You know, Becky Hammon, up until Phoenix tried to run something. Listen, Phoenix, they about to catch some strays on here for real. But because we got to see how the Mercury do. The other Phoenix team, they put money in places that maybe it shouldn't have gone. But you know, that's not my podcast. But you know, Becky Hammon, until Phoenix, was the highest paid head coach in the league and didn't have to prove nothing. So now she's got 2 championships. And so, hey, if I'm Becky, I'm like, yeah, run me my money. Because depending on how Phoenix finish, if Phoenix don't finish the end of this season with 4 championships, then I think Becky Hammon deserved a dang raise.
Facts.
So in short, Becky Hammon deserves a dang raise, because ain't no way Phoenix getting 4. Like, obviously.
Nah.
Are they even getting 1? Are they making the playoffs? Okay. Yeah, we got to ask some questions about that. So we're going to asterisk that. But yeah, the Aces, you cannot deny the Las Vegas Aces. They're doing something special. We talked about so much last year, how a part of that was getting 3 back-to-back number 1 picks. That's wild.
Unheard of.
That's wild. I actually just wrote a story, because Indiana obviously has back-to-backs. Only 4 times in history in the WNBA has a franchise gotten consecutive or back-to-back 2 or more number 1 picks. The Aces / San Antonio are the only ones to get 3 in a row. Lynn Dunn, as a GM, has done it twice. First with Seattle, who then Seattle did it again. So it's only 3 franchises ever. Seattle twice. So the first time Seattle did it, they got Lauren Jackson and Sue Bird. Dang. The second time Seattle did it, they got Jewel Lloyd and Stewie. I think not in that order, though. I can't remember. But either way, I had to get it right. I always get confused. But what? The Aces / San Antonio got Plum, Wilson, and Young. Crazy. And now, of course, we have Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. So, I mean, Indy, they got a good one in Lynn Dunn, because Lynn knows how to win.
She
that
does.
rhymes.
Okay, bars.
Lynn know how to win. She do. She know how to win. As a GM, come on. Put together that what was it 2012 championship team. Yeah, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. So other news though, and this was like big time outside of just WNBA news, but Brittany Griner, through a New York Times article and also a sit down with Robin Roberts for the first time, and her book's coming out this month actually, opening up about her detainment in Russia. And I know, Brian, you sent us an article in our show notes. So I wanted to kick this off to you. I mean, what were some of the takeaways from what Griner has been saying about her experience?
Yeah, I wound up like reading it on the way to practice and then on the way back home afterwards. It was, I think storytelling like that, just giving first, many props to Jay Wortham for just really giving her the full space and time and comfort to share her story in that regard, because it was heavy in there. Like, I feel like you hear that someone is in a bad situation like that, like just knowing it is bad enough, but then seeing how like she mentioned that she'd have to be cramped in a car being transported from like place to place. There was like the conditions were abhorrent. The doctors were awful, just awful, traumatic things. And it really weighed on her in ways that were really severe and devastating. And I think just being able for her to really just sort of like hang in as long as she did, and really, and even in that space, in one of the initial teams, just being able to sort of like form something that resembled anything even close to community, it really pulled you through. Like, it reminded me of like, taking those small victories when you get them, because even in a situation as dark as she was in, she was able to at least have some solace, at least for a time being. It got progressively worse after the summer, and it looked like she steeled herself for being there for the entire time. And just, it's so tough. Like, it's hard to put into words to a certain degree, because just reading it and just seeing everything she went through. And then she gave us a little bit more backstory into her upbringing, as far as like managing her identity, the experiences and traumas that she experienced as a young child from kids her age who were awful to her. Just everything is really sort of coming together in that moment. And even when she came back home, the struggle was so hard. Like, she mentioned, she tried to dunk, and like she was just like, everything ached for days. Like, everything that was so normal, she, being in the post, doing all these things, it was so much more daunting and challenging. And man, even last year, we saw her a couple times, and
Yeah.
she really, even as she was going through all of those hardships and just trying to sort of really regain her balance, she was still able to at least be present, not just for her team, but also for herself, like to be able to play. Last year was remarkable for her in a lot of ways, but knowing what we know now, it's like,
Yeah.
geez, you were able to do all that while still really trying to sort of like find your new life, in a sense. Because in the article, I think someone said that after a situation like that, like everything in your life beforehand is almost gone, and everything now you're just starting over. So having to start a new life in the public eye, and me and Erica talked about it last year when she was harassed at that airport, just like another thing that just sort of like takes you back to that really bad spot. And even now, just like, I think she said something about the cold reminds her of that environment, being back in that. It's like, geez, everything is just like starting over, and you have to really, it's like you have to you're starting your life all over again, but you're not starting at zero, but you're starting with all the weight of everything that led up to that point, and you're having to navigate that. And I think it's also, I think, a testament. I'm going on a little bit, I'm sorry, but it's a testament to really the support system she had. Sherelle was there, her close friends and family were there. I think it's also a testament to them that they knew, okay, give her that space, give her that room, and be there for her, even on those days where she feels like she's frustrated and she's like it's not going where it needs to. You create that space and you create that community and that environment for her. And I think that it's really, I'm really glad she's back. And now that she's like, she was back last year, but now she feels like she's getting for Team USA. It feels like her game is back. And I'm really excited and I'm really happy that she has this moment.
I mean, it's quite honestly to me miraculous that Griner has the competitive spirit still to be focused so much on getting her game back. I mean, you know, we saw in the comments, like, what about getting your life back, like your emotions back, that having to overcome and deal with that trauma. And for me, Misha, one of the things that she was talking about with Robin that I found heartbreaking is that there were times where the guilt and the shame that she was holding on to with regard to how she disappointed people, specifically her family, because of what she owns up to as a mistake, you know? And that in and of itself, I mean, is difficult for a lot of people to overcome. But I feel like I'll speak for myself. Anytime I felt shame or guilt over something, and I'm still working through a lot of that, I can't imagine that being intensified and magnified in the way that it has for what Brittney Griner and her family have been through in the last now couple of years.
It's when you really grasp the scope of this thing, it's almost unbearable. Just to try to put yourself in her shoes. And she says in the documentary, they're literally big shoes to fill. Like, yeah, but no pun intended. We all in our day-to-day lives feel like we come up with unknowns. 10 months. Damn near 10 months being in a foreign country, being a lesbian in a foreign country where I was going down the line because you know what I mean?
Yep.
And as somebody who shares that same perspective on life, I'm glad she's home. And I also think, you know, in listening to her talk about when the news got out and when she saw herself on the television and realized that the rest of the world knew, it's funny. She says that she instinctively reached for her phone to kind of see what the talk was. And on the one hand, I hate that she was so isolated from the world as someone who's become accustomed to being able to look at her phone and see everything she ever wanted to see, to be the center of the attention and not be able to engage with it. On the one hand, I feel horrible, but on the other hand, kind of glad.
Yeah,
I'm kind of glad because people are ruthless.
Trash.
I'm not the first person to ever say this, but damn it, when you're talking about a real person who's going through something like that, I understand we all have different political views and ways of viewing the situation. That's not what the fuck I'm talking about right now. Excuse my French. What I'm talking about right now is that's a real person.
Yeah.
Who was stuck out there in a situation that all the people who had the Twitter fingers has never been in.
Whoop, come on.
Never, ever, ever been in. Couldn't even imagine, clearly, because you wouldn't have typed that stuff. So I'm glad that she, you know, to some degree was sheltered from that. And I hope that on her journey to continuing to get back to herself, you know, she's given nothing but grace, nothing but love. And to y'all's point, it's already so hard to get into and sustain a career in the WNBA as a professional athlete. That's a mountaintop for most people's lives. The fact that she's got to now, you know, she's climbing herself back up to the top of that mountaintop and also trying to get back to, I mean, it's a lot. And I agree with you on miraculous. I think that's the word that I was looking for because
I truly can't even imagine, you know, and I hope that Griner, as she is divulging some of the details, her story, let's remind people that this is her story to tell, that she continues to feel supported, that she continues to find ways to heal, whatever that may look like for her and her family. Yeah, because this is something that happened in a specific period of time, like you mentioned, Misha, but I can't imagine that it's just like, okay, we move on.
It's not how that works.
You know, that's not how a lot of effectively trauma works. And, you know, a lot of what you both were saying reminds me of the grieving process, which I don't think we collectively as a society honor, respect, appreciate, understand
At all.
You know, when you're grieving something, when you're feeling guilt or shame over something, it doesn't work on any specific timeline. There are things that you will hit you like a ton of freaking bricks, you know, like you go to grab your phone or you go to call someone who's already passed on or whatever the case is. Like these are real things that happen to people. So BG, we've said it before, we'll say it again, but we are holding you in the light, holding you in our hearts. And, you know, just hope that you continue to, you know, find ways, because Brittany Griner has always been, in any time I've engaged with her, someone who is smiling, cracking jokes. I mean, that's also what you heard the WNBA players saying while during her absence. And you know, I hope she's able to genuinely enjoy more of that for as long as she is willing to allow us in along the ride. Because here's another thing, you know, what's also miraculous and kind of something I quite literally don't know that I have the brain capacity to understand fully, is that she chose to come back to the WNBA.
She didn't have to do none of that. She ain't owe nobody nothing. She had already proven, you know, what kind of a basketball player she didn't have to do none of it. None of it. So every second I'm watching Brittany Griner play, I'm grateful for her.
Joy. I'm very grateful. Yep. You know, and we're going to move on here, but I'm sure this is going to be something that we talk about again, especially with Phoenix hosting the All-Star Weekend. And we saw that was a big moment for Brittany Griner and for the WNBA to honor Brittany. So hope that continues as she will be one of the stars for Phoenix and one of the veteran stars. You know, I feel like a lot of people, understandably so, have noted that Phoenix, you know, hosting an all-star game as Diana Taurasi is what we can only assume is towards the back end of her career. She still has a few more rookies to roast, maybe, but you know, it's less than it will be more. But you know, I hope that we hold space also for Griner, and I don't think that the players of the league specifically will you know, have it any other way. Retirement seems to be, we're still in shoot around, fam. The retirement seems to be the name of the game, but we're going to use this last bullet point to transition into training camp, which is what we're here to talk about. Epiphany Prince retires from the WNBA, but will also be joining the New York Liberty staff. She has been hired as the director of player and community engagement, the New York Liberty announced. 14-year WNBA veteran, two-time champion. She says, I'm grateful for the opportunity and can't wait to work with the coaching staff, players, and everyone in this great organization. Being in my hometown in Brooklyn makes it even more amazing, and I can't wait to play my part in helping the community. So I think this is awesome, Brian. And of course, that means that Prince will be on hand for training camp. Now, Brian, you are our boots on the ground in Brooklyn. So what has been the vibe with the New York Liberty now back in action?
I would say everyone's high spirits, great spirits. Everyone's excited to be there. We had a couple folks who came in from overseas play. Niara came back a few days ago. She's getting her feet wet. Kennedy Burke is making her way back over from a great EuroLeague run. So everyone's getting their feet wet and everyone's really sort of excited. Like I spoke to Benaisha Laney Hamilton about a week or so ago, and she mentioned, like, you know, just building off what they did last year, and even they didn't really have that full time to sort of get together until opening night of the tour in DC. So now that everyone's back healthy, everyone's getting that full rep in at full strength.
Healthy. Healthy.
That part is a huge knock on wood for that. Everyone's excited and really sort of it really pumped up to do what they're doing. Watching them play today, I made a note of it in my notebook. You really see just the unselfishness at play is just fantastic. Like the ball movement is as we remember it. There's a great communication. You see various sort of like you see the continuity that they built last year really coming into play. There was one instance where Sloot and Stewie they'd have this play last year where Sloot would catch it at the elbow. Stewie would be sprinting from the backcourt. She'd catch it, then she'd get an easy layup. We saw that a couple times. Sabrina and B had a great combination working. JJ and B were really working well. So you really sort of saw everything that they built last year with the starting unit come together. And I think also it's tough. Like, I guess we'll probably get to a little bit later, but the thing about the Liberty is that it's a lot of read and react in what they do. So it's a lot of it's like jazz where you're sort of improvising on the go. And for some of the younger players, it's Sandy was talking about it on Tuesday, just really sort of getting them to get to that point where they're able to sort of learn what they're doing. Because I think Marquisha mentioned it, there's 3 plays that they ran in college that they sort of really stuck to memory. While here it's some Sandy said 300, just as a joking example, but still the sort of jump in what you're doing in college to a full training camp and everything was JJ 100%. Definitely correct. She's feeling good. She got some work in today, looked fantastic. And just to go back to the other point, just the ability to sort of have to learn all this new terminology, all these complex schemes against really a jump. This is the best league and best players on the planet going up against them in a championship level team at that. So everyone's fantastic, but this team is a few notches above. So it's really a great opportunity for the younger players to sort of pick those skills up, develop those new skills, work new muscles in that regard. So it was really good. And just one last thing before I tag Misha in, there was a bit more downhill juice, which I liked. We saw Marquisha Davis had a few really popping highlights on social media where she's getting to the basket. I was like, all right. I'm like, this is what I like to see. Jay,
how the looks looking.
Marquisha looks very good. She's getting to the basket, really driving downhill and really playing at a faster pace. One thing I really liked that the Liberty did today, they had their shot clocks under 24. They had them running at 20 seconds and then 18 seconds, which I think is great. You want to, with the talent that they have, you want to play fast because you want to get as many shots as possible. There's so much great talent here, and you can really sort of really pound teams in that regard. Play fast, play your lockdown defense, get out on the run, speed things up, get those extra opportunities so you can really sort of drive teams in the dirt early. Really sort of playing fast and playing loose in that regard, I think is very good. And for the kids, they're picking things up. They all have a ton of energy. Esmeri looks fantastic. She mentioned that Stewie is sort of taking her under her wing, which is very nice. And it's always good to have another local kid in the house. Yeah. So it's always great there. Marquisha is doing pretty well. Jacqueline Sherrod looked pretty good today. She forced some steals on defense. One thing that I think to the unselfishness point, there's always a thing of overpassing where it's, I've got this floater here, but wait, somebody's opening the corner. Let me make the extra pass. And in my head today, I was like, just take the shot. You got it. You did good. It's fine. That's fine. And one thing I like that Sandy did after practice, she pulled her to the side and had a little conversation with her and really giving her that one-on-one coaching in that regard. So I would say overall, the vibes are high. Everyone's pulling and supporting each other, and it's making a really good, exciting space. And I think the new additions and the camp with all these new players is really creating a good environment where everyone's sort of picking things up. There's that supportive environment. Excuse me, and you really get to see a sort of difference. It's I don't say a slight difference as compared to last year. It's a little bit faster, a little bit more, less sort of having to build I forget the metaphor Erica meant last year about like baking a cake, something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember, but it's like something to that effect, where it's like, oh, you have more time in the kitchen to get things working and not having to make an instant meal, so you can take your time because you have the foundation laid out. Now it's just a matter of sort of like fine tuning the bench, trying out different combinations, and then you can just go from there.
I love it. I mean, I haven't gotten to see training camp live yet, but will very soon. We have media day coming up, and so we'll talk about that. But I love the reports, because everything that Brian is talking about, Misha, are things that we have talked about on this podcast that the New York Liberty needed. Even before the end of last season, we talked about some of these things, including because we're going to get into it in the next segment, but we have also talked about guard play.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that one of the things that general manager Jonathan Kolb said, Misha, as well as head coach Sandy Brondello, or Sandra Brondello, said, we're going to use government names tonight. We know they wanted to get more athletic in the backcourt. And I do think that if you look at the training camp roster, I mean, they did also prioritize bringing in a decent amount of players that are listed, if not exclusively at guard, at least at a forward guard combo. To you, Misha, what does that signal in how a team is trying to play, and or what they're looking for as far as competition in training camp?
I think it just signifies that they're looking to pick up the pace. I mean, the Liberty have the pieces, the IQs at every position with the returners already. You can play whatever style you want to play. You just got to decide and go down that path, right? Mm-hmm. And to your point, by adding a bunch of guard forwards specifically, because in today's WNBA, it's not enough to just be a guard that handles the ball and can shoot the three, right? You have to be able to do it on both ends of the court to make your team successful, unless your role is a Jewel Lloyd, who also happens to be an excellent defender, or, somebody of that caliber at the guard spot who's expected to just create offensively. So I think as far as signals, the roster is giving me as to what kind of style of play Sandy's trying to run, it's not, it's what we've talked about. She's trying to pick up the pace a little bit. She's trying to get a little bit longer, a little bit more athletic. And I'm very encouraged by that, because to me, looking at the deficiencies they had last season, that's really the piece. That's the piece that was missing. I know they're losing Marine because prioritization and all that kind of stuff, but if you think about what let them down last season, that's all it is. It's they needed somebody outside of Benijah, outside of KT, who could really take on that mantle as far as a defensive stopper against these guards, a league full of amazing guards who also tend to have that kind of length. And so we'll talk about it here shortly, but I love Marquisha Davis. As soon as that pick happened, I was super high on it. I won't dive too deeply into it just yet, because I know we're about to get into that. But yeah, that's what it signifies to me. And as far as the competition goes, iron sharpens iron, man. In the training camp, you want that to be as hard as hell. You want training camp to be, that's your proving ground. That's hell week. That's, all the different tangents we can make to that. That's what this week, that's what the 10 days is supposed to be. That's what preseason is supposed to be.
Exactly. Yes.
And with all the vets on this team, they know what they bring to the table. It's not just that. It's also the New York Liberty and Jonathan Kolb creating a pool of players that they know they can go back to, especially in an Olympic year when they're going to start losing, folks left and right, when the league's going to look a little bit different. Rosters are going to look a little bit different.
Misha, can I stay on that point quick, fast?
Please do.
So I was thinking about that, and I was talking to a friend of ours, Owen Pence, about it. And I asked Sandy about this too, about especially seeing different faces. I was thinking about that in the context of expansion coming up later this year. And especially because I asked her, how do you sort of like, what's the real benefit of having, what's the plus of having so many players coming in and you sort of get eyes on, because this fall and winter, one of our regulars is probably going to be off to Golden State. And she was talking about just really making sure you sort of get as many eyes on as many people as possible. So that way they know your system. You can really sort of see what they work, how they work within what you're doing. So I love the idea of like having a full training camp roster in the ways that they have. I think is very beneficial because, especially if someone goes down, it's, oh, hey, I can call this player because we know them. They've been with us in camp multiple times. Oh, I know what this person could do. Come on down. And I think especially when fingers crossed, we get beyond additional teams, additional roster spots, and more flexibility when it comes to things like hardships and those kind of contracts. If the league office ever sort of gets it together and is able to sort of like get it right in that regard, having as many sort of different eyes on players as possible and having your team sort of study them and sort of like build out a sort of like database, that part is going to be so valuable. You can just like plug in someone right as you need them and really sort of go from there.
Yeah, this is an interesting comment. The Liberty needs a backup point guard who can defend, and they failed. Facts. I mean,
I don't know if I agree with that.
I will always lean toward more defense. You know, I also think it's interesting to talk about a backup point guard. I don't know, quite honestly, if the New York Liberty have one. Maybe that's what we'll find out come training camp. I also saw a comment about Sabrina and her defense. Y'all already know how I feel about that. And other teams are really leaning in, such as Indiana, on defense. So only time will tell. But, you know, I think the point guard position, we've talked about this before, the 1 and the 5, I don't think you can muck around with. You know, you can have a hybrid, this, that, and the third between 2 and 4. But when it comes down to it, you have to have someone who can facilitate, and you have to have someone who can be strong down in the paint. Now, is that the only thing that they can do in this game? You can't have that be the only thing. But you really have to know whether you want to call them an expert, in that specific position or not. What you need is the team and that player to know that they are, when it comes down crunch time, that's the role they're playing.
Right.
You know, we talk about players that are clutch. You also need players that can set up the clutch player.
Right.
And usually that's a 1 and or a 5, depending on if you're on defense or offense, or if you need a defensive stop to get to your offensive opportunity. Okay. So I think that's interesting, but I'm curious because we have a few other things in the queue, including someone asking you a question, Brian, that I want to blend with another question. But Misha, you said you don't know if you agree with this. I would love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, because when I think about what Sab and Sloot were able to do last season, even with the defensive deficiencies that we've described, and what the Liberty was still able to accomplish, I think the addition of Marquisha Davis, it makes you that much more dynamic with what you can do with your lineup. Because now not only can you do Sab and Sloot, which you'll most likely start your games with, you can do Sab and Marquisha, because we know Sab, she can handle those facilitating roles. And the issue with her as a facilitator thus far has been they put their most athletic, they put their most pesky defender on her, and there's nobody else on the court that warrants that kind of attention. Not to say Marquisha Davis, again, I keep bringing up Jewel Lloyd, but she ain't Jewel Lloyd. I understand that. But she's quick, she's fast, she's in a hurry. You need somebody who can handle that out there on the court. And frankly, I think, Sab having a player like that out on the floor with her alone with Sloot on the bench, I don't think that's a bad look. And vice versa. I don't think it's a bad look to have I don't think it's a bad look to have. Look, hey.
No, okay, I'm just saying, listen, I'm not mad. I'm posting up because why is that important to have with Sabrina? Because if you have a player like that with Sabrina, then Sabrina is your 2.
Yes, folks. Yes. And then, like I said, on the flip side of that, if Sloot is in there with Marquisha Davis and JJ and Brianna Stewart and Benijah, what are we talking about? I think we have,
Greyhound.
I say we. I'm
like
saying we
Robbie
like I'm on the team. Look, I'm saying we like
we ready. We've converted.
No, I just think they're okay. I think they're good where they're at. One of us. Yeah, nah. I'm in DC.
Listen. I look at the guards at training camp and I like them. Greyhounds. To me, Greyhounds, they run hella fast and their motor is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And to your point again, Misha, you need that in a training camp. Listen, I've been having this conversation in hockey. Why even have training camp if you're not going to make it competitive? Why even have training camp if you're not going to run and to open up the lungs so that your team is ready for game 35, 40, in the case of the NHL, 80, like this is when you put people through the paces and all the other things that we talked about. But I think there are a few other things that I want to get to. Training wheels on Niara. Again, I have not been able to see training camp, but I'm very curious to see how this goes. But Brian, it sounds like Niara just got there. So what is word around camp from what you've heard with regard to how Niara will be kind of integrated?
Well, we had a chance to chat with her this afternoon, and she just got off the flight maybe like a couple days ago. So she's getting herself reacclimated back into New York. Like she's feeling good. Like, now probably over the next few days, and with preseason games starting next Tuesday, we'll probably see her get a little bit of run, just sort of building herself up. And she mentioned, really just continuing being 2 years removed from the knee injury that she suffered in college is a big turning point and goal for her. Just sort of like getting further away, keep building that strength in that quad, getting that work in that regard. And really her run in Prague was really fantastic for her. And just being able to play after really sort of like being away from the game in that regard, it just sort of gives her that opportunity. Like I asked her a little bit about, we saw her run, lead some fast breaks a little bit, just sort of like being able to make good passes in that regard. And really,
I like that Niara has that confidence.
Yeah, like
love that.
And one thing I think you guys would like is that she shouted out that she's expecting a bigger role this year. She's ready for that. Last year, Steph was the main big, and here, and then when Steph went down,
making space,
Han was out. Niara had to sort of like get thrown in the fire, and you saw the struggles there. Like the effort was certainly there, but the rookie struggles were coming in, and then it still had the multiplying. It felt like it had two multiplying effects. I wonder if you guys can see where I'm going with it. One of JJ wasn't at full strength. So that's where the struggles came in. And then the other, and I think this wound up paying off. This wound up biting the Liberty in the butt in the championship round. You had to run a lot of Stewie at 5, and center minutes are taxing. And then the Liberty was still sort of trying to figure things out. And then it would have to be Brianna save us. And then she did. And then at the time when it's like you really needed hey, Brianna, save us. It's like, whoop, out of gas. You hit the wall.
I wonder who talked about that a little before the halfway point last season. I wonder who that was. If only I had a way to look back in the archives. Yeah, it was me, folks. I done told you we was working Stewie too dang hard. Now, see, I am gonna look up who was trying to tell me in the comments that I didn't know what I was talking about. Stewie was tired. He was tired. Okay, so I think these are all excellent points. The other point though that I wanted to come back to is Jay talking about players coming late to training camp and the impact that has, because there's a few different ways to look at this. Legally, right, according to the CBA, I mean, assuming they're being invited and assuming that the team knows when they'll be available, you would assume that a team would make every opportunity to give that player a chance to showcase their talent. So there's that. Another piece of it, according to the CBA, especially for players that are effectively still on rookie contracts, they are not yet going to be penalized under the prioritization rule. So there is an understanding, especially for international players and players that, again, are still on their rookie contract. They're given a little bit of a grace period before they need to hit that prioritization and make it to training camp. So I just want to lay that down foundationally. But it is an interesting question, Misha, because training camps are not weeks and they're not a month long.
Like 10 days.
And we already have teams that have cut people.
Yeah. I wasn't even ready for that. I started seeing that on the TL.
Listen, training camp started for most teams on Sunday. We already got cuts. So, what do you see as, someone who's played certainly more elite level basketball than I ever have? What are the conversations? How does a player feel going into that? And what are maybe some of the conversations that you have to have before you arrive? What's some of the work that you have to do before you arrive to make sure that this is a moot point as much as humanly possible and in your control.
So first of all, the shape you got to be in and the shape that you have to maintain is out of this world. I mean, because that's what training camp is. You just talked a little bit about opening up the lungs. That's part of it too. Players, teams run a ridiculous amount in training camp just to see if you got it. You know what I mean? Just to see if you really are dedicated to your craft, if you've really been putting in the work on your own. So that's first and foremost. And then coming in as a younger person, you have the benefit of having young legs, right? And being young and spry and all that kind of stuff. But also you're going up against grown ass women who've been doing this thing. So it's not just your wind, it's your strength that has to be there.
Yes.
So as far as preparation, that's got to be there. And then obviously everybody who's invited to a training camp is there for a reason, right? There's a reason why this particular team, this particular coach, this particular, organization wants to see you on court with the players that they have, because they want to see how your A+ rated skills, your top skills mesh with the rest of the group and how you handle failure.
Ooh.
And that's the second point I want to make. When you come into a training camp,
talk about it,
or conditioning, preseason, whatever, late, you're playing catch up, man. Mm-hmm. You are playing catch up. You have to be prepared to know how to fail. We talked about having a pool of a lot of players with the Liberty and with teams across the league. That's because each team does stuff differently. Mm-hmm. Each team has different terminology for stuff. Each team, a pick and roll on one team could be some random color animal combination, whatever, on another team, that if you're not used to it and you're already in this high pressure situation, all these eyes are on you, all these reporters are in the gym, you're young, like you got to be able to hone in. And when you're making mistakes, you have to be able to take that information and immediately make that switch. And that is not an easy thing to do. And yeah, it's daunting to think about coming into training camp late and being young on top of that. And for folks who are in situations where they've never been to a training camp with a certain team, I mean, it's brutal.
I mean, it's definitely not ideal. Again, on paper, in theory, they shouldn't necessarily be penalized for that, especially if it's been communicated. Mm-hmm. That's just the landscape of women's basketball. But Misha, you make so many great points. If you know you're coming in late to training camp, especially for someone who's coming to a new team, is new to this pro league, like, you got to make sure that you've done everything humanly possible to make sure that you're ready. Now, in theory, again, these players coming late are coming late because they're playing internationally. So they are in game shape.
Right.
Because they've been playing. And that's another thing that makes the WNBA interesting because game shape is in theory great. But what part of the season game shape are we in? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because we get to the end of a season and everyone's game shape is, I'm a little busted, but I'm gonna make it work.
I'm on a minutes restriction in practice and shoot around, but
I'm at 75%, but you getting 100% of the 75. So and that's another part of then having open channels of communication, because you still need that recovery. Mm-hmm. So then you can be at your peak to perform. So I love those questions. I think they're valid. I don't know that we're really in a position yet to talk about individuals, because training camp is still very young. And some of these players, again, are just arriving. But the hope is that between Brian and I, especially with Media Day, and they're going to open all of practice to us. And so I love that. I'm so excited. For those who don't know, media, we don't always get to see all of practice. We usually get a little snippet of practice. And then we are, usually it's the end, because then we do media availability right after that. But we're getting to see a full open practice, which is going to be really exciting. I want to just shout out Daryl. Thank you so much. So for the super chats. It's a way that you can help the podcast. Make sure you hit us up with super chats, help the channel. If you're not already, please subscribe and hit the notifications so that you know when we go live for Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. I mean, so many things that we want to get into, but I actually want to use some of the questions that we're getting in the comments right now to move on to our next topic, and that is to talk about excuse me, I'm done skipping around. Who will have a breakout year? And I kind of use this a little bit to talk about one player that we didn't get to in our offseason wrap up. But for me, Brian and Misha, I'm looking to Kayla Thornton. And let me tell you why. Let me tell something to you. We have a team that is looking to get younger players that can play solid defense, that can run downhill, and to get them to be that bridge, to be the second unit for a veteran team that made it all the way to the WNBA Finals. For me, the person swinging the door open and closed between those two camps is Kayla Thornton. Mm-hmm. Kayla Thornton is an integral piece to a team that is going to be able to integrate its second and even somewhat hodgepodge third unit that runs through Kayla. She is like a Swiss Army knife. She can run with the starters. We know that. She obviously is going to take a leadership role when with that second, third kind of whatever, mix match units are out there. But also looking at her skill set, she's strong. She gets under people's skin with the way that she plays defense. Not to make it all about the aces, but listen, some people got were putting a target on KT's back because A'ja Wilson got heated.
Big mad.
She got big mad. And I don't know what was said. I don't know what was done, but I'll tell you this. As someone who loves defense and who is a pesky defensive player, when I see someone reacting to me when I play hard defense like that, I'm like, got him. Got him. Did my job. I might not drop a 50 piece, but I got under your skin. I stopped you on this play. And that to me is KT's game. Now that comes with some consequences. I don't know if you really want to catch all the smoke and all the heat from an MVP candidate like A'ja Wilson every night. Because that becomes whiteboard material. If y'all know, y'all know. It's a fine line. Like, it's a fine line. And also, there was, what game was it? Was it Dallas or Atlanta? It might have been one of them Atlanta games, because some of them Atlanta games got crazy.
Oh, it was hot down there, boy.
Listen, that's another team. We getting whiteboard. We getting the whiteboard treatment with them too. But it's and I honestly don't think Kayla Thornton is a dirty player. Like, let's miss me with that. If you're not calling Diana Taurasi a dirty player, please do not come in my comments talking about how Kayla Thornton of all people is dirty. We're not doing that. But she's aggressive. She's strong and she's solid in her frame. And, when you're used to pushing people around and you can't push someone around, even if they're a little smaller than you, that's going to get on people's nerves. But I like that about Thornton's game. And an underrated skill that I didn't even get to, Misha, is that she can also be someone who, if the offense, if the defense of the opponent is shutting everybody else down, Kayla's someone that can reinvigorate the offense.
She absolutely is. She's so dynamic. We forget she can shoot the three.
Oh, yes.
She can slash. She's got the size to finish at the rim. Yep. She shoots free throws relatively well, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you're not asking her to be Sabre Sloot. No. You know what I mean? You're not asking her to be a 30-point scorer. You're just asking her to figure out what the spots the defenses give her, just capitalize on the opportunity. And I think she's more than capable. Yeah, she's strong too. She is strong.
Mega strong. I like that. Mega strong. KT mega strong.
Speaking of KT lifting, I think I saw last year someone asked Skylar Diggins-Smith who's the strongest teammate she has, and she was like, KT. She's like, whatever weight you got, KT can lift it and lift it with ease, essentially. And I was like, yep, that's give her more time. Can I stay on that point?
Do it.
Okay, so Sandy, in one of her media says she was like, she kind of like because I know Erica, you asked about it at exits last year, and she kind of copped to it to a certain degree, but she was like, I had to get the starting five down pat. So this year, now that that's set, I can do more of the bench. So I think that this is going to be a year where we see a little bit more of KT. We're going to see a little bit more of Niara. So
have to.
Yeah, by necessity, and I think by luxury, we'll really get to see the bench out there a little bit more because there's talent outside the starting five, and they can definitely deploy it. And KT is such an integral part of what they do. There were so many games last year where Kayla was in the closing five. I think back to there was one game in Connecticut in like late June where she hit a jumper in the wing. I think it was her first three of the season that just that sort of shut the lid on the Sun right then and there. So you have a player in KT who was capable. Yeah, in the low 40. I think she shot a career high last year, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check. Yeah. But I think it was a really high number. But you have someone who can really be on the court late in games. She did it against Chicago, a couple Connecticut games. Like she's really someone that the coaching staff trusts and really sort of put a lot in. And I think having that, and she got the extension, so the organization has the full support in her as well too.
Now's the time.
Yeah,
KT.
So this is a year where I think we're going to see a lot of Kayla and really sort of seeing her add to her game in even more ways, and especially with how the Liberty move, having a player who's always moving and always cutting and is a great finisher, like Anisha said, that gives you another good avenue because you have someone who's double tough and can finish in heavy traffic and finish.
Yes, double tough. I love that.
People. Yeah, so it's going to be a big year for her, and I'm excited to see what she does.
I love it. Okay, so the question for everyone right now, you can see it on the screen. Who will have a breakout year? I'm saying Kayla Thornton, just because of all of the things that we already said. But Misha, you have another name that you want to toss out there.
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised based on how I gushed about this name earlier. Marquisha Davis. I mentioned when I watched the draft with my dad, and as soon as the Liberty picked Marquisha Davis, I was so excited because she can elevate them. And I have heard all the discussion about her not being a real point guard. We did cover that question earlier, but I posit to you this. She can elevate this team in precisely the ways that it needs elevating. Nothing more, nothing less. She's another player. You don't need her to come in here and have a breakout year in terms of she's averaging 20 points a game. That's not what you need her to do. What you need her to do is strike fear in the other team's hearts when you get that ball off the boards off a defensive rebound and she's streaking down the court like a blaze of fire. That's what you need her to do. And she's already, you talk about pro-ready skills. She's pro-ready to do that. She's already got pro-ready explosiveness, body control, finishing ability, in my opinion. I don't think you need her to shoot the three super well. And I don't think that's right now at the top of the list. And when I think about her game, I think that's an area where she's really going to need to improve. But look at this roster. You don't need her to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
You really do not need her to do that. You need her to slash when she has the mismatch. You need her to run the floor. You need her to make the smart pass, not the, you don't need her to make the playmaking pass. You need her to help facilitate the offense by playing her role within it, right? And you need her to be a sponge. And I think she's way more than capable of being a sponge. If you play for Coach Yo at Ole Miss, and you can deal with what she's dishing out, you're going to be good in the professional ranks. And to that same point, we talked about defense this whole time. Her defense is her best asset. She's 6 feet tall. She is 6 feet tall. Okay, 5'11", maybe, sometimes they embellish a little bit. She might be a little shorter than that, okay?
But, with the sneakers.
Well, with the sneakers.
Yeah, exactly. With
the sneakers, she's up there. And again, we talk about the way this league is changing. At the guard spot, you're not getting a lot of 5'9", 5'10", two guards.
Caitlin Clark is 6 feet.
She's 6 feet tall. And who do you need to stop a 6 foot tall guard with those kind of skills? A 6 foot tall guard who can match her step for step and maybe even exceed her step for step in terms of quickness, explosiveness, athletic ability. So, she can push tempo in a different way if she does have the ball in her hand, in a different way than Sabrina and than Sloot can. And I see her I put in the notes here. I think she could be kind of a player like Brittany Sykes was for the Mystics last season, minus the 3-point. It's bold, but minus the 3-point shooting. And I also think if you look at what Kalia Copper was able to do in the seasons leading up to the 2021 Chicago Sky Championship, the way she was able to develop, that's the kind of path I see for Marquisha Davis if she can stick with the Liberty. So, I'm high on her. Some people aren't. I don't care what you got to say about it. This is how I feel. And if she turns out to be a bust, you know what? Come see me on Twitter. Okay.
Hey. All right. We've got one vote in here for Benajelani Hamilton. I also want to, Damien's asking me specifically. I will answer, but I'm going to tip this over to you, Brian, because Damien's saying, what about Sabrina Ionescu? And then I'm going to couple this with what you were just saying, Mish, about Marquisha Davis. Can she elevate Sabrina and the team if she cannot facilitate? So, Brian, I'm going to let you chomp off a little bit of that. What are your thoughts about Sabrina and any of the additions, including Davis, and how can that help Sabrina's game, do you think?
Okay, I'll stick with the second one first. I think to the facilitation point, I wouldn't worry too much about that, to be completely honest with you, because even today, like, she ran a lot of the fast breaks and she's really making really sharp passes, and she's someone that she's unselfish. She's someone who knows how to make the right basketball play every time. So I trust that part. So I wouldn't worry about facilitation when she's out there, because you're always going to have a facilitator. So if Marquisha isn't like Sloot as a passer, for example, it's okay because she's a rookie and that's not really what you need her for. And you have facilitators all up and down the roster, so you're fine. So you wouldn't have to worry about that necessarily. And I think as far as like Sab elevating her game, I think something that I wrote in my notebook, which right before we came on, I realized I forgot it in Barclays, so I got to go get it tomorrow at practice. It's like one thing I wrote in my notebook was that Sab was getting downhill a little bit more, and that was something Jonathan Cope specifically shouted out. He was like, we want to see her get to the rim more. We want to see her finish better at the rim.
We talked about that last year, because she can. Listen, I don't like her first step. I think it's flat out ugly. Like, it's not just unquick, but it's kind of ugly sometimes.
Unquick is insane.
Unquick. Listen, I didn't say it was the S word, but it's unquick.
I can't with you already. I can't with you. I can't.
It is unquick. Stop. Y'all know I'm not lying. Y'all know
hashtag unquick, lying. Everybody on Twitter. The rest of the season, we talk about this child. Hashtag unquick.
Hashtag unquick. It is not. It is unquick for sure, but she's strong. She has a strong core, strong legs. And she needs to be able to drive more. So asking what Davis or literally any other body that is mobile can do for Sabrina Ionescu is to get other defenders out of her way and give her some space so she can lock in her legs and push to the basket. Now, she's not tall. She's going to get her crap blocked. She's going to get knocked around every once in a while, but that does not matter, because what do we know about Sabrina Ionescu? She can shoot the crap out of the ball, and she has been a triple-double threat since college days. She's hitting those numbers also in the WNBA. But if she does not drive, if she does not show her strength and her grit, then she's going to lose opportunities shooting from the perimeter. She's going to lose opportunities to find her teammates when they are cutting to the basket. And so we need Sabrina to do more of that. And we need other people to create space for Sabrina to do that every once in a while. But that's on Sab.
Erica, there's one thing that I like. That is a watch shot. One thing that Sabrina does that I like, that I'm sure like everyone else. Oh man.
Ronnie said slow. That's how I heard it in my head. Unquick. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead. I'm just keeping it. I'm catching up with the comments.
One thing that Sabrina does that I'm okay with that people on social media are not, is that she'll hit you with a little chicken wing. Like you get her close to she driving, give you a little elbow,
Yeah, she gonna
push,
put it out there.
get a little push out, and it's like, oh, that ain't gonna work. And then you realize, oh, she's kind of stronger than I thought. I'm back
strong.
here. Yeah, she a little strong, and she will.
I'm not trying to catch one of them elbows. Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Like people are like, oh, Sabrina says not. Like she will. Like she got a little bit of spunk to her in that regard. Like if you try to press her in that way, like she ain't backing up. Like that's one thing about her in particular. It's like, hey, you know, they be talking crazy about her. Like, hey, she's still there. Like, oh, why are you doing this? You did that. Like, she will talk. Like, she will. Like,
listen. And that's why it bothers me when she does that whole, like, don't do that. Don't do all of that. She don't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, just embellishing. Sometimes she just kind of fall on the ground. I'm like, girl, we know you strong. We know you strong.
She needs to take another page out of DT's book. I hate to say it.
Woo! You know what?
She does.
Listen, I call DT out for that all the time because I think it's wild to me how we will call everybody under the sun a dirty player and never come for DT when she is the dirtiest player in the world. And she intentionally does that stuff too. That being said, you're absolutely right. I don't want to see Sab flop no more. Own that. They already talking about you, boo. They're already talking about you. Get some of that dog. Come on.
You just bark.
I sure did. Get some. Like, come on. Like, let's go. Just be. I am who I am. I'm gonna be who I be. Just do it. Baby, you with Nike. Come on. You know how I go. Just do it. Just do it. Come on, Sab. Smack that gum. Flip that ponytail. And let's go. She just gotta commit to it. She has to commit to it. I want to see Sabrina unleashed. And you're right. I didn't pick her to have a breakout year, but y'all already know how I feel about this. Mm-hmm. I still believe, and the margin is getting slimmer and slimmer, but the goal for this team is to unlock and unleash Sab. The only way that doesn't happen, and I honestly hope this is what happens, is if they get a tried and true point guard. Sloot's not going to be there forever. Sab can give you 1 and 2 minutes. I think she's more of a true 2, but that means you have to have a bona fide point guard with her.
And a bona fide slasher at the 3 or somebody who can be dynamic in that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And the Liberty just ain't got it right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Liberty, I mean, Indiana might, but that's a whole nother story. Listen, I was like, all right, Caitlin, whatever, cool, tight. I saw that child play in Albany. I was like, damn,
for real,
damn, like, child. And see, there's been a lot of comps because I talked about Lynn Dunn earlier and her ties to Seattle, and she helped Seattle get started with what now is one of the most successful franchises. Four titles. There are 3 WNBA teams, past, present, future. Well, past, present. That
you got a crystal ball over there.
I mean, hey, that have 4 championships, 4 titles, and the Seattle Storm is one of them. And Sue Bird was there for all of them. Now, the thing that Sue Bird, quintessential number 1, as in point guard.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, you know, we talk about Chelsea Gray, point guard. You know, cannot, like, for me, I don't know how you comp those two. They are quintessential point guards in my estimation. Different, but tried and true number 1s. Sab ain't that. Mm-hmm. Caitlin is an interesting hybrid. She's an interesting hybrid.
Right.
She really is. But I think Indiana is going to use her as a 1 more.
I see her. I tweeted this the other day. I wouldn't be surprised if Caitlin Clark finishes this season top 3 in assists. I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised at all.
I would not be surprised at all. I think
Indiana's hoping for it.
She did what and this is not a Caitlin Clark podcast, but a brief point here about that.
You got to talk about her. Come on.
At Iowa, she scored because she had to. Because that was what they needed her to do to be elite.
Correct.
In the WNBA, you don't necessarily need her to put up 35 points. You need her to make the play. And she's more than capable of doing that. And to your point about Sab, you know, I don't think that's her game. I think she can.
She can,
but I don't think it's where she's at her most
no, and I don't think
all.
that's what a WNBA team should set her up to do.
Exactly. Not a smart one, at least.
That's a
it's got to be supported by somebody who can help play that facilitator role. And yeah, to your point, I kind of think your plan for her hinges on whether or not they get
exactly. You feel me?
Hinges on.
You feel me though. You feel me though.
Yo.
Okay, so you're telling me that Sabrina should be more like Anthony Edwards. I don't know. Sorry to that man. I don't know his game, and I don't know what you mean by that. So,
I do. And I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that.
Charisma Osborne or Nika Mule would have made the difference. I mean, listen, I don't really know because I see a lot of these comments, Damien, and I guess I'm trying to understand, what do you think other people need to do to make Sabrina better? Because I think what we're saying is that it is contingent on what the New York Liberty and how the New York Liberty decides to build their team. Can Sabrina play on the ball as a one? Yes. Is that what she's best suited to do at the WNBA level? I think what we're all saying is no. So, I mean, Sabrina can only do so much within the context of WNBA competition. And it's going to take, in this case, the New York Liberty to understand that they need to bring in a point guard who can play a full WNBA season. And we've already alluded to the fact that that is not Courtney Vandersloot. That's no shade. That's no tea. That's just facts.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think to that point, Sab is best when she's getting it. Like, she's getting her shots up. Like, she's a great passer.
Exactly.
But it's like, why would I, if I have the choice of beyond shooter, do I want her passing and setting people up, or do I want her shooting? Like, I want Sabrina, you from half court, shoot that thing, do it every time. Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, and she's much better in that regard. Just like finishing plays, let's loop pass. Like she led the league in assists last year.
She loves it. She gets that when she got all the air out of her cheeks, that's how that thing is fire.
Like even today,
that's guaranteed.
Yeah, like even today,
y'all watch too much. Y'all watch too much. That's nuts. Wow. Sorry, Ryan.
All right. Even I feel like when Sloot made a no look pass today, I feel like she did that exact thing too today. So I was like, as Erica was doing that, I was like, that looked familiar to earlier today. Ain't that something?
Slowly fading out of the picture. Foolish. Unserious.
Oh man, listen, this one had me chuckle a little. First of all, Unquick, #Unquick. I'm glad we're making it work. So fetch. I love it. My crystal ball says Unquick will go to Bay Area team. I think you are that is accurate.
I mean, I think they're going back to the old WNBA model. Put a player from this region in this region and let's go to work. I wouldn't be surprised.
Listen. I wouldn't be surprised either. She already putting on for the Bay NWSL team. I was like, ooh, she's a little too comfortable. Oh, gosh.
That's her home.
I mean,
Walnut Creek.
I ain't mad. What Walnut Creek?
Ain't that where she's from? Wait a minute.
Something with a walnut.
Something with a nut. Pecan.
No, Cashew Creek. Ooh. This is where you get the non-dairy milk from.
Yeah, she's from Walnut Creek.
Walnut Creek.
I don't know why I remember that. Don't ask me why. Anyway, child.
Oh gosh. Okay. Don't you think that it's the front office fault for not finding the right point guard other than Sabrina? Yes, I do. I've been saying this for a while. Jonathan knows how I feel, to the point where he'd be like, Erica, leave me alone. But legitimately in the middle of press conferences, he's like, no, we are not in a hybrid rebuild anymore. But no, I do think, listen, is it going to be a problem? Like a unsolvable, unfixable, insurmountable problem? It wasn't last year. We talked about this. This wasn't the issue in my estimation last year. we've talked about it, right, Brian? The issue was that the Las Vegas Aces were making a beautiful, like, multi-layer, ganache-filled, marble, glaze-covered cake. And the New York Liberty were working with somebody's old Easy Bake Oven.
There it was.
That's what it was, right?
There it is.
There it is.
They were working on a microwave sponge cake as far as preparation. Listen, a sponge cake, you do it right, that's gonna work.
A microwave cake in a mug? Look, y'all ain't never been there before.
Listen, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Like J-Lo be saying about orange drink or whatever. And her ham and cheese. Yo, that whole discourse has me rolling. Also, listen, no, because this is a podcast for New York Liberty fans. I'm gonna keep it 100%. If you go to a bodega and all you order is a ham and cheese, I don't even know what that is, bruh. Are we going lettuce? Are we going salt, pepper? You want it hot? Like, there's so many questions. But anyway, that's one of my multiple tangents. The issue is not this. This is not the issue, at least not right now. But the New York Liberty have a small window to fix this before it becomes a problem.
Facts. Yes.
Because the rest of the league is catching up. I think for most people, and I saw your little list.
I know you did. I gotta pull up right list.
Easy Bake Oven. Listen, hey.
She right.
I'm not hating on the Easy Bake. I'm gonna eat that. But if you have more time, why wouldn't you take it?
Yeah.
And the Aces had more time than the Liberty, and still they ended up in the same space in the finals. But if we don't figure out this, before the window closes, because Seattle's coming. Indiana, don't let Indiana and Atlanta make the playoffs this year, because they're feeling real bold with their young whippersnappers. Okay, they're feeling real bold, and I'm not even mad. But if we don't fix this, or at least establish, what else have we been talking about? Establish roles. I forget who it was up here talking about who is the New York Liberty go-to. I know someone put it in the chat. We're basically on the fourth quarter right now. I don't even know what we just done moved on.
Somewhere.
Yeah, we somewhere. 2 hours later. But if we don't fix it.
SpongeBob is my shit, so don't start
quoting that. I'm clipping that. We're gonna have that ready, that audio ready for next 2 hours later. If we don't fix this, we're not gonna get to a situation where the Liberty are gonna run it back, and they're gonna have missed that window, especially if Unquick ends up in the Bay.
That really throws a wrench in the plan.
Unquick ends up in the Bay. So that's what I'm saying.
Riding trolley somewhere.
Not riding trolleys. With the Rice-A-Roni commercial. Wasn't that Rice-A-Roni's from San Francisco? Yeah, the San Francisco
Off the hinges.
Why are we like this, Bram? Okay. Y'all just keep asking questions.
I had soda. We were talking about sponsorships. Poppy sponsor Black Rosie Media because y'all got
Poppy.
me.
I love Poppy. You don't even know.
They so good. Anyway.
Talking about raspberry rose? Come on.
I haven't tried that yet. I've only tried the lemon lime and the orange because I wanted to see if the classic soda flavors I liked.
Poppy, this message is for you. We would like a case of raspberry rose for the next podcast. Gotta get a podcast for New York Liberty fans presented by Black Rosie Media and Poppy Raspberry Rose. See, like, that just sounds great. Come on, make it happen. Somebody knows somebody. Mm-hmm. Somebody cousin them. Come on.
Somebody in here.
In the comments.
Got a TikTok influencer friend who's already doing ads for Poppy. Come on.
Right. I'll do a little dance like what y'all need. Like all that. Let's go. Okay. Thank you, Ronnie, for typing this again. Because we were kind of throwing shade at the Phoenix, the Phoenix Mercury and Suns. And not that they don't deserve it, but this is interesting. I saw it higher in the comments as well. Yeah. Are we kind of hoping Phoenix is a lottery team? Maybe, but it also depends on what the draft is looking like.
Yeah.
It also depends on what the draft is looking like. And what I will say about this training camp roster, Brian, for me, yes, perhaps it's future planning, but there's also a level of how shall I say?
Como se
Um,
dice?
you know how they say you got people that are in your life for a reason, for a season, and for a lifetime. I feel like the New York Liberty messing with reason, season, and now we not really trying to get with people that's trying to be with us for a lifetime.
I could see it. Like, I think especially with a young backup unit, you're not going to keep everyone there, and it's interesting.
That could be interesting. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I think especially for like a young backup rotation players, like you're not going to keep all of them just by proxy of the cap and availability, things like that.
Yep. Just like we didn't keep Becky Hammond. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
Bad times.
Listen. I will never forget watching her be the sixth player off the bench and then go off to be a 6-time WNBA All-Star in San Antonio. But it's fine. Continue with your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, so like ultimately they're gonna walk in. Jonathan mentioned it. I think I want to share it with you guys. I think he said he's gonna walk into the season with around 11, and then depending on availability, if it's a player is like he mentions like mid-July before the Olympic break as like a marker point for getting player number 12, like depending on experience level, cap availability. So there's still sort of flexibility for the team to add one more piece in. Like they don't like the great thing about the Liberty is that they don't have to do much. It's like you don't have to. It's not 2021 where you have to sort of overhaul everything, or 2020 right. where you sort of the studs. So you can really sort of like work around the margins, and a camp like this gives you a chance to sort of see who fits in what role. And I think with that, you can really sort of see which players. Oh, you're not going to be here now, but if I need you, I can call you up and be like, okay, I need you to come work this shift. Come on down. You do that, and then you've really got a good foundation. And I think especially with how the season may go, we know like certain teams, depending on just looking around the league, I think they have a little bit more flexibility. Like just as an example, Dallas is going to be without Satu for half the year because her shoulder's messed up. You've got.
I wonder what that means for the Olympics for her too.
Yeah, I think they said she'll be back for Paris, but coming back off without playing for 6 months and I think
a shoulder too. Them things freeze up on you real quick.
Man, my labrum still ain't right.
So you've got Dallas, who in theory is going to be a little bit down without their best player. You've got teams like Phoenix and Seattle building everything out from scratch, almost how the Liberty were last year, where you're having to build this whole thing out on the fly. And you've got so many new players, so their players are gonna be burning through a lot of minutes, especially early. So that gives you an opportunity there. Connecticut's always tough, but Bree is just getting back. I think she's gonna be clear for opening night, so that's gonna you have room to see what's going on there. Vegas, in theory, might be down 2 starters to begin the year with Gray and Kia Stokes. So I think what helps the Liberty is that their context is a lot more stable compared to other teams. So you don't have to be how it was last year, where it's like, we got to get off the ground fast, because if we don't, we in trouble. And, I think we'll have fewer moments of them sort of tricking off 20-point leads to the sky like they did last year. Like now everyone is solid and knows what role they're best in. So it gives them more time. And I think it gives the bench players sort of more room to make mistakes and be okay with making mistakes. Like I think Misha, you was making the point earlier, especially for players who are coming in, like you have to know how to make mistakes and be okay with making mistakes.
And move on.
Yeah. Yeah, like you don't have the situation where it's like everything is so magnified, because now this group has spent an entire year together under the magnifying glass, and they did really well. Right. They did really well and built that continuity together while everyone was sort of chipping at their heels and firing shots at them. So it's like, okay, you're fine. And let me see. This comment, I'm nervous about.
Yeah, Damien's saying, I'm nervous about the upcoming roster. I'm not sure if Sabrina is ready to take charge. And how can we be so sure that the Liberty can run it back? Well, you can't be sure. Yeah. I mean,
is Sabrina taking charge? Is that?
I don't. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but again, I don't think that this is a pressing answer. I just see it being a challenge because Sloot is not going to be around for another 5 to 7 years with the New York Liberty, or maybe at all in the WNBA, depending on what she wants to do with her life. I don't know. So again, it's not an issue. And I see people like saying Paige. I saw Georgia Amore, who I guess is going to be at Kentucky, right? Because she followed her coach.
Yeah.
Chen is interesting because she's going to be at UConn this year. But thank you, Jay, for clarifying. I guess he's asking if Nika Mule, and if I'm not mistaken, Brian, because I was backstage, but it was the pro-Liberty crowd chanting for who were they chanting for at the number 11 pick? I can't remember.
They were like, I was sitting there, I was like,
I thought.
I'm like, oh wow, a lot of folks made the trip from Storrs, Connecticut down here. How enjoyable.
Yeah, I think I remember vaguely hearing that. Again, I was backstage, but I know, Brian, you were closer to the draft stage, and I do remember. Listen, I got to chat with Nika. I think she's hilarious, man. We had a good old time. And the way she played defense in that NCAA tournament, I was like, bah, 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 let's go. I mean, they still lost, but hey.
She did her job.
She did. Understood the assignment.
Ain't
Would Nika have been a better choice? I mean, that's debatable for sure.
Wow.
It's debatable. I don't know if I think she would have been a better choice though, because we're talking about that 11 pick. That's where they got Marquisha, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Because if you get Nika instead, okay, yeah, you do have the defense, but she's short, isn't she? She's 5.
Yeah, she's not
5'10". She doesn't have quite the length that Marquisha does. In my opinion, even though she is an excellent defender, doesn't have the same explosiveness that Marquisha does in the open court. Right. And wouldn't be able to affect the Liberty on that end of the basketball as much.
Right.
But she does kind of give you more. I still have a bone to pick with people saying Marquisha Davis can't facilitate, because let's remember Ole Miss lost KK Davis or KK. I can't remember her name. Lord mercy. But at the beginning of the season, she kind of had to pick up that mantle. I'm not saying she was Nika at the point guard position, but so I don't know. That's definitely debatable. I
think it's definitely debatable. I think what you get in Nika is more of a true guard position for sure. But my understanding of what the Liberty wanted was a little bit more KT Bonajalani style players.
Versatility.
Yeah.
And actually, Brian, you sent us this article. I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone else, but it is our fine colleague, Jeff Magliacetti, who I believe wrote this one. Thanks and be well. If you know, you know. Oh, Jeff, I can't wait to see him. Been on the show, friend of the pod. But in this article, Jonathan Kolb is being quoted he says length, or like our length. We want to be long, so that's talking about size, but he's also talking about, there you go. KK.
Thanks, Jay.
Yes, there you go. He's also talking not just like physical and physicality with like physical stature, but I think also like a type of game. You can play a longer extended game when you have quickness, when you have athleticism, when you have speed, and quite honestly, when you just have killer instincts. You have some players that are going to run the floor. You want players that are going to run the floor because they already have players that can toss that thing. Okay? Listen, okay, Sabrina, we know she can shoot from anywhere, but she can also push that ball. JJ, Stewie, you have so many players that can make that home run, quote unquote, home run pass, baseball pass, which is not really, we don't pass in baseball, but anyway, y'all get the point. A stretch pass, there we go. You can't make stretch passes if ain't nobody running the dang court.
That's the worst part about playing pickup. Don't nobody want to run.
Don't nobody want to run. You better hit the backboard and pass it to your damn self.
That's what you need.
You asking about, do we think that the Liberty can run it back? We can't. Listen, I'll put this on me. I'm not answering that question right now because we can't answer that question in a vacuum.
We ain't even got nothing to go off of yet.
The league has gotten better. Everybody's made additions.
Yo, and to your point earlier, I put my rankings out there. I ain't got the Liberty at number 2 right now. Even though
Really?
that's finished, I don't have
Well,
the Liberty.
Ryan ain't see him. Wait a minute now, Mish. You
haven't seen him, Ryan? I'll go through my top 3. My top 3. My top 3 is Vegas, Seattle, New York.
Seattle, really?
Let me tell you why. Linda, listen.
Linda, listen.
The reason why we talk about this past season, New York had all the pieces, but had to put it together on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
In Seattle, Jewel and Skylar, which I think arguably is the most important duo for that roster heading forward. I know NECA is NECA. NECA had a freaking amazing year last year, though, so that's why I'm really not worried about her. She had a great year in silence. Skylar and Jewel reconnecting. I don't know if folks remember the magic they made at Notre Dame. And maybe people forgot, but they have that chemistry they're already building off of, so they're not getting to know each other all over again, right? Mm-hmm. They're folks who already know each other's games. They have that kind of dog mentality that syncs up with each other in those moments where you need it to from your two, backcourt people. They got that kind of vibe already. They have the leadership ability. Jewel Lloyd's already a scorer. We saw what she was able to do without a real point guard to really help her. Let me not say a real point guard. That's disrespectful. But without somebody of Skylar Diggins-Smith's caliber, if you add that to the mix, I think they've got the pieces. I think that cake's already in the oven baking. You know what I mean? Thank you, Jay. So depending on what you think, I have Aces, Storm, Liberty, Sun, Lynx, my top 5. So
the Lynx.
Did y'all watch them last season? Nafisa Collier, Kayla McBride. I mean, guys. So that was my only reasoning. That's no shade. I'm just saying. I think. Okay.
Minnesota is gonna be interesting. I like Peely. to Minnesota. I know some predictions, mock drafts had Reese going to Minnesota. Did anyone see that working?
No.
I
don't think she would have
liked and Reese.
I don't think that's not an environment I think she would have
enjoyed. And Minnesota, like, no tea, no shade.
If you know, you know. Because if my job told me today, hey, we transferring you to Minnesota.
Ooh. Oh yeah, no.
And I love Prince. This ain't got nothing to do with that, man.
I don't. And I mean, he ain't around to throw parties for the Lynx no more.
Do you think they'd see Jam and Lewis at the airport? Like if I saw Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I'd be super happy though. Be like, hey, they're just walking around. How you guys doing? I love you guys. Rhythm Nation, Janet.
Oh, that's iconic. Yeah.
It would be a momentary balm.
When I was 17, I knew what people told me.
I'm playing with them.
Yes. They don't. They ain't ready. Wow. Okay. So we have done so many things. But the one thing we have not done is talk about the upcoming schedule. We just skipped over the third quarter. We just skipped right on over it. But so we have, I mentioned it a time or two, but we have Media Day coming up. But we also have on Tuesday, May 7th, in Chicago, the New York Liberty play their first preseason game. And then on May 9th, they take on the Connecticut Sun. Listen, the Sun, man. Woo!
They have to do it.
They have to, man. Listen. Oh, man. I feel for them. I really do sometimes. I really, really do. Because they got a squad, man.
The thing that really kills me is, for folks who have been to Mohegan Sun, they really got the short end of the freaking stick being out there on an island and hard to get to and being as talented as they are in that vacuum, it seems like. It's, Connecticut is Connecticut and they've got women's basketball aficionados, but it's tough. I'm like, how long does AT want to stay over there not winning the championship, coming this close, but no cigar.
Brutal.
I think they got a timer on them too for sure this season.
I think you might be right. They lost a few pieces, but I don't. They were able to. You talking about a team that was able to run it back. Listen, Damian, we've talked about this before. I know you're a disgruntled New York basketball fan, but the Liberty are not the Knicks. Let's just keep that clear. And the New York Liberty, historically, I understand where you're coming from. But fam, we gotta let that go. They playing in a whole new arena,
New day,
whole new ownership.
Let that hurt go.
Let that hurt go.
Let it go.
It's not like we're talking about watching a documentary series on the team that beat the New York Liberty in Game 4 on their own court. Like, that's not what we're talking about here, Damian. It's understandable to not watch that, but now we just going a little bit too big. We doing too much.
Y'all bringing out wounds, man.
Y'all do it. We gonna work it through, Damian. We gonna work it through. But you can only do it one step at a time. It's not gonna help to quit on them before the season even starts. That's not right.
No.
But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like everything is hunky-dory and they're immediately gonna get back to the WNBA Finals. We can't do that. Gotta put in the work. And that's why I feel like it was last episode, right? We were talking about, for me, everything sounds like the New York Liberty want to move in silence. I think this is a squad that they don't really like all of them. I mean, everyone to an extent likes the attention, but all of the backlash and having to be so involved in some of the stuff that's happening off the court doesn't seem like it's what these players individually or even collectively really want to focus on. So I think they are taking a beat. I don't think they watched that documentary either. And they didn't watch Shattered Glass either, because the last shot was in that one too. This is a team that is focused. They're focused on what they feel they need to do, because that's what other teams are going to do as well. So that's our job, right? On this podcast, that's what we get to do, is talk about all the other foolishness that's happening. The New York Liberty seem focused on the New York Liberty, and I'm fine with that. Can I sit here and guarantee that that's going to win a championship? No, that's disrespectful to everybody else out there putting in the work. But if this New York Liberty squad, who knows that they were the closest as anyone that anyone else got to winning a championship right behind the Aces, if they figure out some things, if they remember how it felt to lose Game 4 on their home court, not to mention 1 and 2, not to mention 1 and 2, they gotta figure out what that's gonna mean for them, and that's gonna determine, in a good part, not wholly, but in good part, how successful they are. But that's not something that we can sit here and talk about. That's something that has to happen in the locker room, which is why I don't appreciate other people trying to understand what doesn't go on in the New York Liberty locker room and then talk about that crap right after winning a championship in a city that ain't even your city. Like, don't be doing that. Don't be doing that. You wait for your parade to do all that. Don't be doing that. But it's fine. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I'm not. I got beat. I love Kelsey Plum. I don't like those comments. And I'm going to remember that, Kelsey. I'm going to remember that. And I hope some of them, the New York Liberty players, do too. But I can't do that for them. If they're not stressed about it, if they're not making that whiteboard material, I don't know what to say. I mean, I would. I am, obviously. But the Liberty has to put in the work. And everything, for me, points to this is exactly what the New York Liberty is doing. So am I going to guarantee a championship? No. Am I going to guarantee the finals? No. Is the expectation that they make the playoffs? Heck yes. And that they make a deep run? Absolutely. That's an expectation, but anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Anything, man. Oh.
Wait a minute. Game 1 and 2 was a calm demonstration. Educated. Y'all are crazy. Listen, that's what I'm saying. That's all we can do, Damian. That's all we can do. That they got to remember and be motivated. Yeah, I hope so too. Listen, expressing, now we want to, I can't speak for other people. I see moving in silence as minding your business. Some like, but Nigel Laney, she gonna keep her mouth shut and mind her business. She
go
not
about her business.
Exactly. She's not emoting how she feels about every little thing out in these streets. She don't do that. The New York Liberty players, they're not like that. Stewie kind of had to get comfortable with it. Sab is, for a lot of people, a superstar, but she act like she don't even care. Not about the game. Let me see. Don't clip that and don't do that. I don't think she cares about all of the extraness that surrounds her name. Like, she don't see Sabrina does her job, and then she does whatever she does when she's not playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
She's just moving and doing her own thing. And I ain't mad at it.
Yeah, same for JJ, same for Sloot, same for all of them.
These are like low-key introverted people.
What is happening?
I have no idea.
Oh.
So, man, I mean, we could be mad. There's plenty to be mad about. And obviously, I got a few things I'm still going to have to work out through, WNBA Twitter therapy. But listen, they're just going to have to put in the work. And that's why what Misha said, it was important. It has to be a high level of competition in training camp. Sandy Brondello seemed gutted as gutted as anybody with how the season went and took a lot of responsibility. She's a championship caliber coach. Mm-hmm. I don't see her getting outworked, outplayed. And I honestly don't even know if that was the case. She made decisions and with the information that she had and did what she felt was the best course of action. And I don't think she was wrong. The wrong thing or what happened is she ran into a team that didn't have the same challenges that she had and whose bench was already ready because they put us on notice in game freaking 4. Point guard out. Stokes out. Liberty lose. Bench was ready. Bench had Becky Hammond's confidence and trust. Sandy didn't quite get all the way there. These are just the facts. That's how the cookie crumbles. But anyway, Brian and I are going to be able to get some more content for y'all at Media Day. We're also going to have the amazing Georgia Suarez that is going to join us to take some still photos and all of that. So if you're not already a part of the Patreon posse for Black Rose Media, go ahead and do that because we're going to put some of that up there first. And then, of course, we will be back here on Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans to talk all about it. All right, Mish, what you got cooking for folks outside of Gotta Get Up? What else should we be on the lookout for?
So first and foremost, if you don't already, follow at MISHTHEJRNALIST on Twitter because it's about to get active this season. Okay. I'm posting my little quick takes. I don't got a lot of time outside of work, but when I do, I'm posting my little Mystics takes because I'm trying to get this commentary train going around the city because it's just not enough. It's just not enough around DC. So follow me on Twitter for that kind of stuff. And if you are into podcasts, check out the Ways to Win podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast. We had Joe Madden on last week's episode. This week's episode is Rex Chapman. We have Dawn Staley coming up. We have Alex Smith, former NFL QB, coming up. We started the season with Barack Obama. So I'm trying to tell y'all, come check out Ways to Win and PP Girl in the credits.
Hey, let's go.
Her, as the kids say. Oh my gosh. I'm hilarious. That's the issue. I'm hungry again, Erica.
Child. Listen, not with the sad face. Brian, what you got cooking?
I've got some training camp things coming up. Gonna probably be back this weekend. Next week with the games coming up. We'll have about that opening night. I've got my plan to head down to DC, so I'm looking forward to that.
Let me know when you do, because look.
Wait a minute.
Just let me know.
Yeah, so I've got a lot in store. I definitely want to sort of keep the train going, and it's going to be exciting. It's very fun. It's it's going to be a really fun year all around the league, and I'm really pumped.
Sweet.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm an eye test person. I'm excited to let y'all know how I feel the team is looking, what the energy is. And of course, we're going to have interviews. Like I mentioned, check out our Patreon, all the links on our YouTube and all of our other pages. I'm excited for that. And then the next big thing for Black Rosie Media is going to be the Olympics. But we'll have a couple of months of WNBA before that. I am planning to go to that preseason game up in Connecticut. So we'll make sure to give you some more reports from there. But I don't know, some of y'all might have picked up, but this is a Columbia hat that I very intentionally matched up with this is an OG Playa Society. This is Playa Society Athletes Unlimited. Natasha Cloud actually kind of collabed on a little bit of this. So listen, there's a lot going on in the world. We obviously take some time out of our day to talk about the New York Liberty. It's a way to build community. I mean, we love seeing we got some OGs every weekers with us, Damian, Daryl, Ronnie, Aloysius, Jay coming through, Jen. We appreciate y'all so much for hanging with us. But we know that there are other things going on. We talked about Brittany Griner at the top of the show. So whatever is happening with you, we want to send you love and a reminder to be kind to yourself first and foremost. You are the one who knows what you're going through. Be patient with yourself and do what you need to reset. But also extend that grace to other people when you have the energy and the capacity to do so. And sometimes that means just letting people experience what they need to experience and then being supportive after. But we really, truly, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the co-hosts. We want that for everyone. There's a lot going on in the world. So any way you can find it, a way that is going to bring peace for you without harm to others, grab onto that. Grab onto the people who you love, who spark joy, all of that. And hopefully we can be just a small part of that with our Gotta Get Up podcast for New York Liberty fans. We will let you know when we are going to do the other one. We're probably going to start moving to every week once the season starts. So we got another week or two where we're every other week, but we will let you know. And of course, we'll be ready for the opening game. All right, now is the time where we just wave until StreamYard decides that it wants to end the stream. Good night, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Nice.